still hot. Hello everyone, it's Bethany from Beth and Books and welcome back to this book nook. Today I am standing up because I need to be able to gesture, because today I'm sharing with you 10 very popular books that I don't like. Before we offend any opinions, let me put this down. By the way, yes, my cup does say spread your legs, not the virus. If you watch my COVID diaries, you will understand the reference. But look guys, this video is not being put out there to hate the authors. This video is not being put out there to hate maybe one of your favourite books. This video is just something fun and light-hearted, and I think it's a good reminder sometimes that it's okay not to like every book. I remember a wee while ago when I would DNF books, or I wouldn't like a book, I wouldn't review them. And I think the difference is I'm not coming for the authors necessarily, it's always the books that I'm critiquing. You can't like everything. Books are an art form, so it's okay to have negative opinions about novels. It's okay. So, we've got the tea, because I'm going to be spilling the tea. I also have a little afternoon snack here because I just came back from school. I've been craving ginger slice lately, so. I love food so much. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of said it, but just to be super explicit, please don't take offense if you like these books. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm super happy if you liked these books because I want people to enjoy reading. These books just weren't for me, and I'm gonna chill out with you guys and explain why over the course of this video and spill some personal tea. Still too hot. I did not learn. Alrighty, so these books are in absolutely no particular order. They're just a random order. That's what no particular means. But we're here. The first book is Jenny Han's To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Now, guys, this book for me, in one word, was underwhelming. In fact, in my review, I called it a little bit anticlimactic as well. I feel like Laura Jean is hyped up to be this character who has a lot of things going on, and she's got all these intense romances happening, and so when I picked up the book I really wanted that. That's what I was expecting, but instead it really fell flat. And one of my first thoughts when reading that novel was, it feels juvenile. Like, I'm not saying that the things Laura deals with are necessarily, you know, beneath me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying as a reader it felt like it wasn't a big enough problem to make a book out of. I'm sorry, I feel so bad. But, you know, I need to get over that because that's the whole point of this video. I just didn't like it. I just thought, ultimately, nothing interesting happened. Okay, we've broken the ice. Let's continue. Alright, continuing with the YA, we have Marissa Meyer's Heartless. Now, I feel like I've really learned that retellings are not for me. Inspired by fairy tales, sure, but retellings, a trope that I do not enjoy. And this follows, I think it's the Queen of Hearts, and she falls in love with the court jester or joker, and whatever he was called, and it's like a forbidden romance. Now look, I'm all for an enemies to lovers or a forbidden romance, but this was so cliche. And yeah, okay, I'll take some of that because I've recently eventually learned that retellings and inspired bys are not my favourite novels. They just don't mesh well with me, so that definitely did impact my reading of that novel. But oh my god, cliche after cliche. The predictability, it was such an unmemorable novel for me. It wasn't gripping, it wasn't new, it wasn't interesting. It wasn't interesting. Alright, here is a thriller mystery for you. We have Paula Hawkins' Girl on the Train. This book I picked up because I really liked Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. We got there. And it was advertised to me of the same kind of pace, the same kind of vibe. And when I read the blurb of Girl on the Train, it was like, then something shocking happened. The only thing that shocked me was how shockingly overhyped this novel is. I felt like nothing important culminated. It's a very intense book. It talks about some really important things, but when I want like when a book is going to be that intense in terms of talking about alcoholism, like intense alcoholism, or you know, murder, brutal murder, why did it feel like it was fluttering along like a fairy tale? I just, like, our main character's going past on a train and she doesn't necessarily witness something horrible. She's just a nosy lady who sticks herself in places where it doesn't matter, and from there gets involved in this murder mystery, which, by the way, was so predictable. I could have just like read the first few chapters and figured it out. I mean, I pretty much did. That's why it was predictable. Alright, so the next one is Emily Henry's Beach Read, which is a novel I picked up because of Instagram, and it was my first dabble into this author's work, and my main issue isn't actually anything to do necessarily with the plot itself. It's how disjointed this beautiful summary book cover is compared to what the novel is actually about. You read the blurb and it sounds like a really enemies to lovers, competitors to lovers vibe at a beach house, nice and sunny, getting lots of writing done because our main characters are both authors. Oh, excuse me. But instead, this book includes an investigation of a like entire clan of people who were murdered, and it gets really dark, and on top of that the romance wasn't even that steamy. So I think my big issue with this book, and it's not necessarily Emily Henry's fault, I don't think authors have much agency in how the book covers and stuff, but it just doesn't match up. The curtains don't match the drapes. Is that the saying? It just, yeah. So it was a big book of disappointment, to be honest. When you pick up a book with this cover, you want a vibe, and it did not deliver on that vibe. So if you're thinking of picking this up, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the novel. Just know that, like, it's not a fun, light-hearted summary romance novel, that's for sure. Okay, this one, back to YA. I feel like this series is very close to lots of people's hearts, and I've mentioned before that I am not interested in reading any more of it, and that is the Shadowhunters series. I'm sorry, but I do not like them, and I cannot get over the incest vibe, right? The fact that, I can't even remember the characters, but you probably know what I'm talking about. It's such a popular series. There's a little incest vibe there where at one point two characters are told that they have the same father, and they previously had like this little romance going on, and then once they are told that about supposedly having the same father, they kind of are like, oh no, it's bad, but I still love you so much romantically, and I can't get over that, on top of the fact that this series I feel like has outgrown me. Again, just being honest, I feel like if I had read this series when I was 14, it would have appealed to me so much more than it does now when I'm 24, 25, oh gosh. Avoid the existential crisis. Drink tea. Alright, continuing on, we have quite a recent read actually. I read it this year. Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. In fact, I think it even came out this year. That's why it was so hyped up. I found this book boring, repetitive, and flat out uninteresting. Your main character, as by the way, with no trigger warning, in the first chapter, within the first like few 10 pages, so I don't consider this a spoiler, suicide. Out of nowhere. Suicide. And then our main character essentially goes to this in-between place and is living out different versions of her life. Now the idea is interesting. The idea of living extreme different lives. Like I was thinking our main character, I don't know, just went down more extreme different paths. But instead the paths she goes down to relive her life are very minor differences. Like life to life that we see her relive are very minor minorly different, tiny a bit different. You know what I mean. We're literate here. Look, it was just repetitive. I didn't like it. I have heard though that Matt Haig is a decent author, and I am willing to give him another shot. So if you guys can give any recommendations on what you think his best one is, I will definitely put it on my want to read list on Goodreads. But Midnight Library, not a fan. In that same vein, another book I read this year, which I think is overhyped, is The Bromance Book Club. This book is so intrinsically sexist. Like, I can read in a novel which has issues in it, but then are redeemed or fixed, or there's a commentary on how it's wrong. But in this novel, in which our male love interest essentially is trying to woo his missus back by doing the same things that a guy in a book has done. Okay, that's not too bad. It was the fact that there were so many conversations about him winning her back as if she was an object to own. And as a woman reading that, when at the end of it there was no solution, no commentary, no discussion on how that way of thinking is wrong, really aggravates me. Like, I don't know how I would ever be able to get past that. The actual premise of the novel, winning back a woman, romantically wooing her based off of your learnings from a novel, is fascinating. That's a fascinating prospect, a fascinating idea. If you're looking at it in a way where you're not winning back a thing, you're reigniting a romance. And that's the difference that Bromance Book Club does not explain. I think just the foundational idea of this novel grates me. All right, these last three, let me have a snack because I feel like we may be going into some touchy territory for some of us. Hi, birdie. All right, so let's keep going. The Imagine Me series. What the hell happened at the end there? It got so bad. It did. It just got so bad. Look, I've read the entire series, and the first 2, maybe 3 books I enjoyed. I was also, you know, a few years younger, so that whole audience thing that we were discussing with the Shadowhunter series. But this series, oh, it got really bad. It's just one of those cases where I did not like it. I did not like it. Our main characters had too much time to create stupid problems. It was one of those series that really should have finished after maybe book 3 or 4 and instead kept being pushed out, and felt like the plot itself got thinner and thinner without actually having any sort of valid foundation to stand on. And so by the time I got to book 5, I was already thinking, oh god, this is getting so bad. And then the final book, I was just like, oh gosh, I would have DNF'd it, but I really wanted to complete a series. And that's the only reason I finished that series, if I'm being completely honest with you, for completion's sake, which is not a great reason to finish a book. Carrying on with some cult favourites. The Handmaid's Tale. I'm sorry, don't look at me like that. The Handmaid's Tale is another case of nothing happening to keep my interest. And maybe this stems from me being a fantasy reader primarily, or a romance book reader, where I really get absorbed in a tale that is told, right? Something big is happening. And so novels where it's kind of a subtle action don't enrapture me as much. And so what happened with this book is I was like, yes, give me this world, this creepily close to like what could happen in the future, what with overpopulation and pollution and who knows what's going to happen to the human population. Give me that. And it did. But it gave me nothing else. It gave me the world. It gave me this idea of woman fighting for their freedom gave me this idea of there being some sort of underlying revolution. But they were only little ideas. Nothing, in my opinion, happened that was all that interesting. Now, I've had this conversation with my colleagues, and one of my colleagues at high school actually teaches A Handmaid's Tale to some of her senior students, and she loves it. And we were having this conversation just the other day, actually. I think that might have sparked this idea, to be honest. She loves that, and when I said I didn't, whew, a little bit of hell broke loose, if I'm being honest with you all. A little bit of hell broke loose at the lunch table at work. Sorry guys, I just found it boring. Okay, which leads us to the last. And I said I wasn't going to be coming for the authors, and I'm not. This isn't necessarily about the author. It's just maybe their writing style, so that their books don't gel with me, but John Green. John Green is one of the most overhyped authors in my humble opinion. Now, he seems to have this audience that loves all of his work, and I'm so happy for his audience for liking his books, but excuse me, but look, I'm so agitated I'm lifting up my maxi skirt to expose my legs. His books are another case of, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, yet I feel guilty about it. Because, right, Fault in Our Stars, the medical variation of representing, amazing. Turtles All the Way Down, which, if memory serves me right, is about overcompulsive disorder and anxiety. Brilliant representation. The man does some stuff for representation, as that not being an own voice. I can't speak if it's like, okay, I retract my statement. It might not be a brilliant representation because I don't know, because it's not my own voice. But he seems to do a good representation. Yeah, I'm not qualified to say whether it's good or not because I'm not own voice. But I feel like he at least tries to bring in a range of characters. But nothing about them really ever retains my attention. I've got my laptop up here, and I'll go through the books of his that I have read and how I have come to this conclusion. Alright, so I have picked up 5 of Mr. Green's novels. Now, a few years ago, the first book I read of his was in 2017, and it was Turtles All the Way Down. Now, I gave this one a 5 stars, and if I'm being honest, back in 2017, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, Bethany was a lot more generous with her rating. Now, I don't go back and change anything because I'm a firm believer that that's what I felt at the time, so that's what I gave it. But looking back, I think I could knock that quite easily down to a 4 stars. Now, obviously, that's not bad. That's still quite good. Turtles All the Way Down, I was excited for it. My memories are quite positive for it. But then what happened is every time after that I read one of his books, I liked it less and less, and I think it's because the vibe is the same, which is okay. It means you know what you're getting, but I slowly found myself getting less interested and realising that some of his books weren't all that imaginative, seems like the wrong word, just lacking substance somehow. So after Turtles All the Way Down, I then moved on to his classic The Fault in Our Stars, and this one is the John Green book, the cult favourite, right? And again, I gave it 5 stars, but if I'm being honest with myself, whilst it is a nice tale, I think I only rated it 5 stars because I was scared of what people would think of me. Here I am dragging it in a video. But look, we'll move on. After that, Looking for Alaska. I gave that one 4 stars. I could change that, give it a 3. After that, I read Paper Towns, which weirdly, I only gave 4 stars, but I think that's my favourite one. And lastly, Will Grayson, which was a John Green and David Levithan yeah, a John Green and David Levithan book, I DNF'd. And I'm pretty certain it was the John Green writing influence in there, because I then read a straight David Levithan novel and loved it. So I feel like John Green was the reason I didn't like it. But look, I guess what I'm saying here is John Green's okay, but I don't think he's worth the hype. I find it really hard to explain why I don't really gel with his novels, and I think it might come back to the whole it's contemporary and for a fantasy, science fiction, romance reader, I don't know, I just felt a little bit flat at times. But hopefully all of that made sense for you guys. Let me know if any of these are your favourites. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. Please be kind. I'm only a human, here for a little bit of YouTube entertainment on BookTube. So, you know, don't take things personally. I've said it so many times already this video, but I'll say it again. If you liked one of these books, I'm so happy for you. If you agree with any of my opinions today, let me know down below. And yeah, that's the video. I've got the dregs of my tea to finish, a bite of slice, and I'm going to go read a book. Yeah, because that's what I do. Thank you all so much for watching right till the end of the video. Enjoy all the places you go in your own reading adventures, and I will see you in the next video, which I'm also really excited for. Alright, bye guys.